Hello and welcome to another episode of the Video Creator Show. I'm Grant here with Augie. Today we're talking about something crucially important. It really comes down to enjoying your life. We are talking about how to be productive while maintaining real and healthy mental health. It's surprisingly difficult, especially when you are controlling your own hours. And I think even the dream of being on YouTube or on any social media platform, really, and having a big influence, making it a part of your business, it can make you feel like you should always be working, and that if you don't accomplish your dream and if you're not hitting big numbers, then that has bad effects on your self-worth. That reflects badly on you. And so we're talking about essentially how to not drive yourself insane while still being productive and not being too floaty with your time. Augie, I know this is something that you have dealt with. You run your own business. It's the sponsor of this podcast, vidshops.com. You run an editing service for people, and this is more of an actual anecdote than a pitch. But you run a business. You have had your own channel, Baller Boot Camp, and you have a family, and you coach basketball, and as a dad and a business person and an entrepreneur, how have you kept your mental health where it is now?
Well, to be honest, my mental health is better, I would say, than it's been in the past years because I have less on my plate, although it sounds like a lot with coaching and kids and vid shops and all that kind of stuff. There was a time when I felt I felt busier. I don't know. I don't know how I could get busier, but I was working a day job for a while trying to juggle all the same things as well. So there you go. That's a 40-hour-a-week job that definitely put a strain on it. But the main tip as far as your mental health goes, to me, is being productive. When you are productive and you feel proud and you're getting work done and you're seeing results, then you're fine. To me personally, it's when I know I'm not getting the work done that I should be, or I'm not, maybe spending time with my kids, right? On that level, that's when my mental health starts to kind of, I don't know, it's not as good. I'm more stressed and those kind of things. So I think the key word for today is efficiency, because if you're efficient in everything you do, whether it's spending time with your family, you're totally engaged, you're not on your phone, sitting in the corner, you're with them, you're helping, you're, adding value and just enjoying your time, then you'll be happy with that. Same with working. If you are being efficient with your work and getting work done and seeing the results, then, you won't feel stressed out. So I think that's something we should talk a little bit about today.
Totally. I think one thing that really gets to me with efficiency is I make a schedule. It seems efficient and reasonable. And then I sit down to do something, and maybe I do it, or maybe I feel like I'm bored and I kind of end up doing something else. I always end up hitting my deadlines, but I feel like there's a lack of efficiency there somehow. So to me, all these efficiency things are huge, but when it comes to the reality of, do I do it or do I not, in the time that I scheduled for myself, how do you keep yourself accountable, or not even motivated, but just accountable? And, when you're supposed to do something, and you have some wiggle room time, that technically you have, but you probably shouldn't take, how do you just buckle down and do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Lately, I actually have been kind of geeking out on productivity and just trying to push myself to be more productive. I think everyone does that when the new year comes around, and you kind of want to start going hard on January 1st again. And, that was me. So one thing that I've learned, and that's been working pretty well for me, is just figure out what the most important task of the day is. So if you need to create a YouTube video, then try to make that the only thing you have to do that day. Okay, everyone's got to answer a few emails in the morning. Get all those little tasks done before 9 a.m., right? As early as you can, get all those other tasks that are not going to distract you. And then you only have one thing to do. Make a YouTube video. So with that in mind, you have, a long day ahead of you, and that's the only task you need to complete, although there's a lot of subtasks there. But that has helped, because I think what most people do is you're like, I'm going to create a to-do list, which I think is good too. Like, I would recommend starting your day with, a sticky note and just a pen, and you're writing down your to-do list for the day. You can cross things off. That's very helpful for me too. But make sure that you circle one of them as the most important task, or the one thing that you want to complete that day. And that should help you. It's been helping me. And, a few months ago, I actually had like a accountability or a productivity coach. So I was paying this service about $300 a month, and it's called Commit Action. And if you go to their website, you're going to get retargeted for years, which is okay. But eventually it got me. And for $300 a month, this is basically what I got. I got one call every Monday morning that lasted 20 minutes. So on this call, we would move things into committed tasks. So 3 things that I needed to complete by the end of the week, by the next time we got on that 20-minute call on Monday morning at 7 a.m., right? I had to get on this call 20 minutes, and we would just say, okay, I commit to these 3 things. And by the next call the next week, she'd say, all right, did you complete them? And, throughout the week, I would check them off as soon as I completed them. But that helped a lot, and it was really good. I liked it. I was getting a lot of tasks done, and it was even to a point sometimes I want to do 5 a week. Let's up it. When I first started, no. My coach would say it's 3 a week, and yeah, I liked it. It was I canceled maybe a month or 2 ago, just because, to be honest, I wasn't getting my stuff done, and I was feeling guilty, and it was stressing me out. Eventually I wasn't completing my 3 tasks. I was being a bad boy. And every Monday, that call, I was like starting to reschedule it. I was canceling it. I was missing it. And I was like, all right, I need to cancel this and kind of get down to the deep root of why I'm not completing these 3 tasks per week.
What was the root?
But, I still haven't figured out the full cause. I think part of it was me just not being disciplined and wanting to spend more time with the family. And, also, basketball season has started, so there was some other things taking some time. But I basically fell off the wagon. And what I've been doing recently has been helping me more. We can talk more about that in a little bit. But I found some other tools that have been helping me. But anyways, yeah. So to answer your question, the most important thing, and then try to do that day.
Sure. That's a big one. I'm curious, let's get philosophical for a second here. You fell off the wagon, so to speak. You wanted to spend more time with your family and coaching basketball. To me, those are wholesome things to do. You're not necessarily pursuing some entrepreneurial horizon, but you're doing something that is, fundamentally important. Like, you're a coach, you're essentially a father figure to these kids in a way. At the very least, you're teaching these kids discipline, and that's going to affect the next generation. You're showing up every day. You're, being there for them. And there's a lot of value in that is sort of intangible, I think. Whereas when with the things we're talking about, starting a YouTube channel, running a business, I guess the value in a way is tangible. That doesn't make it better necessarily, but is it a bad thing to focus on intangible things?
No, I don't think so. I think it's all about efficiency, right? Like we said earlier. And, one tip that we've talked about on here a lot is time blocking. And if you are getting the stuff done that you want to get done during your time blocks, then more power to you. Go spend more time doing what you love, going for jogs, going surfing, whatever it is, traveling. Because, honestly, that's the whole reason we do what we do, right? This is the reason that we're not working, a 9 to 5, 50 hours a week or whatever, because we want to own our time, and we want to be able to have the perks of being your own boss and saying, all right, well, hey, I know I'm supposed to record this video right now, but instead I'm going to go to gymnastics class with my son and spend 2 hours doing that. And instead, I'll go and record this video tonight, or I'll find another time to do it. And I think that's totally fine. But there is a limit to that. Like, you do need to follow through and stay up late that night and make that video. I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by vidchops.com, which is a flat rate video editing service that allows you to take the burden of editing totally off your hands so that you can focus on more important things in your business. So go ahead, check out vidchops.com if you want to add an expert video editor to your team in just a few clicks. That's vidchops.com. And now back to today's episode.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one advantage of actually doing these sort of intangibly valuable things, like hanging out with your family or, wife, girlfriend, like whatever it is I find I am more refreshed or going for a jog. Like I've been exercising a lot recently, and one thing about it is it's like, can I justify the time? But I actually find that when I exercise more than the time I do spend working, I actually am working, and I'm working efficiently, and I'm working well. So I make less mistakes. My head is clearer. If there's like a billion messages or emails I have to deal with, I can deal with them more gracefully instead of, sitting there and thinking like, oh, what do I say? How do I deal with this situation? I have a clearer head. I'm more relaxed. And I think that thing of maintaining mental health with exercise or family or a social life, it's about enjoying your life and having legitimate recharge time, not just not doing anything for the sake of not doing anything. That's not the same thing. Scrolling through YouTube shorts or TikTok is not recharge time. It's like you're just sort of giving into an addiction in a way. So yeah, like that's kind of the main point here that we're going to keep hitting on is enjoy your life. And I think you'll find if you do that authentically, not just being hedonistic about it, you will actually spend your work time doing more valuable things. But Augie, you talked about time management tools. These are things I haven't used much. Obviously, you talked a bit about an accountability coach, but tell us about these tools and why they are helpful, how to use them, etc.
Yeah, the reason I'm kind of, like I said, geeking out on productivity and time management and this kind of stuff was due to a recent podcast I listened to on My First Million with Rob Dyrdek. And maybe it's not recent now, maybe it's about a year old. But Rob Dyrdek talked about how he tracks every second of the day, right? He spends, 7 hours a day sleeping, 7 hours a day working, 7 hours a day with family, and 3 hours left, 3 hours exercising. Essentially, don't quote me on that, but it's kind of like a breakdown like that. And so all 24 hours in a day are accounted for, and he is getting his full 7 hours with the family, right? Or doing, things like that. He is getting 7 hours of work. He's getting 7 hours of sleep, which to me, I need like 8 or 9, but that's just me. And even time to work out. And the thing is, he tracked it every day in his Google Calendar. He had a developer develop like a custom app just for him. It's not public or anything. And not only did it track his time, and he would kind of, check, I spent this much time doing this and this and this and this. And not only did it track it, but it would also ask him, how would you rate your day? And he looked at all the data, and what he found was that when he did do the things like not drink alcohol and get 7 hours of sleep and 7 hours of work and, whatever, when he did reach his goals for the days, that he had great days, right? He was sitting, great day. On days where maybe he didn't get the sleep, maybe drank some alcohol or whatever, didn't reach his goals 100%. A lot of times those were kind of mediocre days or bad days, or the next following day would be a mediocre, bad day. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I want the app, I want the app. I want to do the same thing. And I searched and searched and searched. And I guess through the algorithms of Google or the retargeting of the websites I visited, all of a sudden I started seeing these ads for an app called UltiSelf. And when I clicked on it and looked into it, I was like, it's basically the same thing that he described. So I bought, it was like, you can say, it's like a to-do list in a way, like a daily to-do list. And you can set up custom to-do things. There's a whole bunch of kind of created ones like, drink water or whatever. And as you go through the day, you just, open up your app, you chug the water, boom. Check that off. You just went for a run, boom, checked off. And it'll send you like text reminders or notifications. So like at 4 p.m. every day, it'll send me, a reminder to open up my app and complete my to-do list. You know, in the morning, it sends me at 8:30, write down your most important task. So 8:30 every morning, I get reminded, I take out my phone, and inside the app, there's a little journal that has a spot, and this is kind of where I got the most important task idea from. I mean, I'd already kind of heard it before, but you literally type in your most important task for the day, right into that field, and at the end of the day, it'll ask you, did you complete your most important task? You can say yes. It'll say, you know, rate your mood from 1 to 5. 5. Rate your, I don't know, how healthy were you today from 1 to 5? 5. And then, you know, did you eat healthy today? Yes, you can check that off their to-do list. Anyways, you can kind of customize it to whatever you want, kind of whatever goals you want. So like imagine if you want to write a blog every day, you know, did you spend 20 minutes writing your blog? Yes, you know, and so that tool, that app is great. It's been helping me a lot. The text message reminders are awesome. And now I'm getting served a lot of other ads for these other kind of similar apps, right? And I'm downloading them, and I'm like, let me just find the best one, you know, and I'm looking through a couple other ones, and I'm finding other good ones too that I like. But this, like any kind, like I'm always looking for the advantage, you know, where's the slight advantage that I can be more productive, you know, and hold myself accountable. And, you know, anyways, these are the tools that I thought work well.
How long have you been using that app?
About a month, I would say.
And have you noticed a big difference in how productive you are?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say that it hasn't been a super game changer in productivity, I would say. I've been a little bit more productive because of it, but things like exercising, drinking water, getting to bed on time, like just other things that maybe aren't work productivity related have been going a lot better.
Right, that makes sense. I feel like with things like that, the advantage is you get to quantify like how something actually affects you. You know, I think it's easy to forget, right? Like, okay, you exercise, you feel good the rest of the day, even maybe the next day, because you've gotten rid of a certain amount of stress, you've kind of let it go through this exercise process, and then maybe you stop exercising, and then you kind of like gradually it fades away and you sort of forget. But if you have this app that's kind of telling you, hey, you know, the days where you actually do this, you notice how you always still do the most important task of the day, and you feel really good that day, and it carries over to the next day. Like you can see the patterns. That seems like very useful to me. So I get it. I see how that would help you with kind of less tangible things as well.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that I kind of base my dream life on, like what I consider like the life that I would design for myself if I could just write it down on a piece of paper, is like health, wealth, love, and happiness. You know, so those are the things that matter to me. So I do want to spend 7 hours a day on wealth, right? That's working. I do want to spend 7 hours a day on love, right? And that's family. And then health, you know, like Rob Dyrdek throws it in there too. You know, that's what exercising is about. It does, yeah, it's a stress reliever. It does all that. But like, honestly, people know, you should know the most important asset in the world is time, right? Time's ticking. Your time is going to run out one day. And so, you know, how do you get more time? Well, being healthy is a great way. You know, you can extend your life and, you know, exercising. And so anyways, I just think as long as you can figure out what you're about, you know, you can kind of start prioritizing, you know, your time, and then that will lead to good mental health, you know, no matter what. Like this is for YouTubers, right? So YouTubers, you know, if all you care about is the wealth, then you are going to need to work a ton. And for some people, that's okay. You know, they are happy. They don't burn out. Because all they do care about is the wealth, you know. But if you also care about health and happiness and love and stuff like that, then you're going to have to find ways to be efficient in other areas so that you can find time for those things too.
Absolutely. And this is a good transition to one thing I wanted to talk about is mental health. You got to stay grounded, especially being a YouTuber, even if you have a relatively small audience. You know, let's say you have 10,000 subscribers and your audience is reasonably engaged. You get, you know, some comments on every video. The point is, like, if you get any traction, you end up having this ecosystem, this little universe that is centered around you. And as far as love is concerned and these kind of intangible things, spending time with your wife, your family, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever, the more people you know and that care about you and that you care about who are not involved in your clout universe, the more grounded you're going to be. And that is a great thing across the board. You know, you get a negative YouTube comment that says, this guy is ugly. But hey, you're hanging out with your wife. She thinks you're hot. And there you go. This guy is annoying. You hung out with your friends that day and they really enjoyed your company. Um, this guy doesn't know you. You know, you are grounded by these people who know you, not your parasocial uh, persona. And that's so important. It's crucial because that you is eventually also what you bring to the table on camera or in front of the microphone every day. So staying grounded and having people who know you and spending quality time with these people who know not YouTube you, but you is not only going to be good for your YouTube career, it's going to be good for yourself.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I heard someone say, I can't remember who it was, but they said, if you ever hear me say, do you know who I am? Just punch me in the face.
Yes.
Because
So
that's
that's like
true.
you go to a club, they won't let you in, and you
Yeah.
say, do you know who I am? I have
Yeah.
100,000 followers.
No, exactly. They're not just a club, right? People try to pull that all the time. Like, I mean, in the basketball world, right? Like, someone trying to get in free, they'd be like, to the game or whatever. Do you know who I am? It's like, that's like the worst thing you could ever say. Like, it's so toxic and it just shows right there that your ego, you have an ego and I don't know. Anyways, like the whole like clout and followers thing on social media, like, yeah, it does get to a lot of people's head, it seems. But the best social media creators, I would say, are the ones that are the opposite. They seem so humble. They seem so, and those ones really connect with their audience. Like, this might not be a good example, but like a Logan Paul, right? Like, it's to the point now where like Logan Paul is in the doghouse pretty bad for a lot of different things. Recently, it's a crypto scam type thing, and I feel like his audience is so quick to turn on him, like they almost want him to mess up
Hmm.
because they just think it's funny because he's this big superstar and blah blah blah. When if he was a little more humble and connected with his audience maybe in a different way than being this big kind of above you type character, then maybe there wouldn't be as much backlash. But I mean, obviously, when you do stuff wrong, you're going to get called out for it. But I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is like your followers do have that parasocial relationship with you, and they'll stand up for you if you are humble, if you don't feel like you're above everyone. I don't know. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it's true. Yeah, absolutely. Like humbleness, you can only have that by having a real life that has nothing to do with YouTube. I truly believe that. Because if your whole life is about the thing that gets you lots of attention or like attention from people who have never actually met you, uh, you can't have a healthy sense of identity. You don't really know your value. You don't really know how you make people feel. And yeah, you're right. I think Logan Paul, I think this is something he struggles with too, is like he got so big so quickly at such a young age that, maybe he does struggle, like, who are his real friends? Like, can you get surrounded by yes men? Which I think speaks to, the goal, if you want to be famous on YouTube or even just successful, is maybe your life right now. What if you were nostalgic for your life right now? Like you're already living the dream, no matter what you're doing. You have a simple life. You can go to a grocery store and not have people, oh, are you so and so? Enjoy your life for what it is, and obviously that's easier said than done in certain situations. But I think the more you can appreciate what you already have, the easier it's going to be actually to kind of maintain longevity in a public space because you're just going to be more mentally stable.
Yeah, and that's what YouTube is. It's a public space. So, I really appreciate that. I like YouTubers that kind of just hit record on the camera and just talk sometimes and get all personal and stuff with their audiences. I think more people should do that. I mean, those kind of videos sometimes are not, they're not well designed for the algorithm maybe, or they're not, they're not scripted and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of miss the old days of YouTube when kind of that's all YouTube was like story time, or, just more people just talking about whatever they're going through. And I don't know. I miss that. I think I should start creating content like that and just, almost like build in public, right? Building in public is like where you try to run a business or start a business and you reveal what you're doing all the time, like on Twitter and on in YouTube, whatever social media platforms you want, and you show the strategies you're using and the ups and the downs. And it's a really actually common strategy. It's just scary because you're opening the doors to a lot of private information, and there's competitors out there and that kind of stuff. That's what worries me. But I think that is like some of my favorite type of content is building in public. So maybe if you have a YouTube channel, whatever it is, maybe you can start creating content that is more built in public, and it'll help you, see some results, some growth.
Hmm. Yeah, in a way, like by building in public, you kind of get an audience that's kind of rallying around you, and that it builds morale, and like people. You can even apply this to non-YouTube channels, like or to non-YouTube goals rather. This channel Wheezy Waiter I've talked about a few times on this podcast. He'll have a video that's like, I exercised, or I went running in the morning 4 days a week for 90 days, and this is what happened. I mean, he has better titles than that, but that's the idea. And he makes a video out of it, and I think that keeps him accountable. And it's pretty huge. Building in public, I like that idea. I've never heard it expressed like that, and I think it can be totally helpful. Which so sorry, what did you have to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that those kind of topics are great for YouTube and great for the algorithm. Like what you just explained, that title you just dropped, like I did this and this is what happened. That is a great formula. And then you spice it up a little bit, like I ran 20 miles barefoot. This is what happened, like that. Those kind of videos are doing really well on YouTube these days. And I think it's because, we want people to watch all the way through on our video. And so you're trying to see what happens, at the end. And it's all about that build up throughout the video and the grind, the journey, right? It's a story. And then at the end, you get to see the results. And I would just say, if whoever's listening to this, like, how can you use, I did this and then this happened in the world that you are in on YouTube? That's just, I think, a great tip.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with that, I wanted to talk about hustle porn. And this, there's such a huge self-improvement motivation genre on YouTube. Are you unmotivated? Watch this. Watch this and have your motivation never go away ever. It's, I don't know, a clip of Jordan Peterson talking about the Bible or something. I like Jordan Peterson, but the point is, these are just videos and these are just ideas, and ultimately there is something that when it comes to parasocial relationships, people say a lot of things into cameras and into microphones. Are they actually living those truths? And if they are, perhaps they're, even if they're authentic, they could be in the sort of 1% of people who they're just built to work 80-hour weeks. And there is a superpower in that. There is also, I think, a flaw in that these people maybe don't run into. I mean, look at the Fire Festival guy. What is it? Somebody McFarlane? He looks exactly like Seth MacFarlane, but isn't. And I don't know. It's all very strange to me. But point is, he is a hard worker. It seems he seems like the face of hustle porn. Like, we're gonna have a festival on a private island, and it's going to be luxurious, and we're going to have models pitch it on Instagram, and then when we're gonna do it in 8 months, well, the whole fiasco unfolded. People ended up going to an island hoping for a big, awesome concert and party, music festival, and ended up, almost starving, being exposed to the elements, and lawsuits. He's millions of dollars in debt. This is a completely extreme example, but my point is, if you hustle too hard, there are consequences. I'll give you a far more mundane example. Like this past week has been insane for me. I have a client, and they're asking a lot. They're paying well, but it's a lot. And Friday was a 14-hour day for me. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and I worked until I started working immediately, and I worked until 6:30 at
Hmm.
night. And it was just that was the day. Um, and then on Sunday, I worked 10 hours. And come Monday, I felt not good. I still worked a lot of the day, but when I was done working on Monday, I was so tired. I felt my body hurt. My mind was unclear. I felt like I could make decisions, but I just wasn't as I just wasn't as sharp.
Hmm.
So even doing things like this, you can get really unbalanced fairly quickly. And by the way, I was like exercising and I was doing everything else right. I just was working really hard. Um, and you have to be careful with that. And I think it's important to be honest about that. So then anyway, Monday night I got 8 hours of sleep, woke up the next day, uh, feel much better. So, but I could have hustle porned it and woke up at 5 in the morning again and chugged coffee and started it all over. But you kind of end up losing clarity, and you can really go off the rails, and just end up doing a lot of work that is not very high quality. You overcommit and you end up disappointing people. But hey, you got a lot done, didn't you? Or you shot for the stars, didn't you? And I mean, it's just uh, you got to be careful.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about being a YouTuber. There's a balance there because you're your own boss, right? When you're your own boss, you're either going to overwork yourself or underwork yourself, right? You're either going to be complaining about I'm just not productive, I just can't get it done, or you're going to be like, God, this is a lot harder than it looks. I'm working this many hours. Da, da, da. So where's the balance, And I think as I talk about that Rob Dyrdek story, like that's what it's all about. Like find your 7 to 8 hour workday, map it out, hold yourself accountable to set your alarm. Like for me, like when I was working a day job, I was setting my alarm for 6 a.m. Every day I had work, it was 6 a.m. I was getting up, I was getting in the shower, I was getting dressed, I was brushing my teeth, and by 7 a.m. I was like ready to rock and roll, right? That was maybe even had a little bite to eat by then. Now that I'm working for myself, I'm not setting my alarm for 6 a.m., right? Which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay because I felt overworked at that time. So now I'm setting it for like 7:30 or 7, which I'm okay with. But there are some days where, I set it for 7:30 and then I'm lying in bed with the kids till 8:30. And then I'm just sipping on a coffee, going on social media till 9:30 or whatever. And then I go get ready. I'm not even ready yet, right? And so then that day is kind of ruined. Like that day I'm not productive. Now my mental health is at risk because I'm feeling stressed for not being productive. So for me and like how I am, like for my mental health to be great and for me to feel not stressed and productive, like I need to get up, I need to get ready, I need to get on the computer with a nice little meal in me or something, and I need to hit record on that camera and create content or whatever it is to if you're a YouTuber, and that's kind of the key of is getting the work done by 4 p.m. Now look, no, most people work till 5 p.m. You're getting off at 3:30, 4. Like now you feel the value in being your own boss and you're getting stuff done. So, it's a balancing act, I would say.
Totally. And waking up early is powerful and getting started early. There's
Hmm.
something about it, especially like, the day I woke up at 4:30, by the time 9 rolled around, I mean, God, I had gotten so much work done and there's no distractions. Nobody's awake. It's dark out. It's just you. And also, I don't know, if you have committed to waking up early, I think there is something about it that sort of, you've already done one hard thing, you, even and you've just started. So it makes it very motivating to keep going. Sometimes though, I don't know, I'll wake up early and oh boy, am I tired. And I usually though I think it's helpful. But all this is to say, I think the self improvement genre, it can have a lot of really useful advice, but ultimately you do have to kind of feel things out, live your life. If you work a 14-hour day like I did, um, you probably want to at least work a half day the next day, if not just take the whole day off, get as much sleep as you can. Things like that. And, or, like I think I exercised the next day. I went on a long run. Um, and that was a nice reset. But it was still kind of productive. And I got a little bit of work done on Saturday before jumping into my 10-hour day the day after. So, it's, I don't know, you got to recover.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I just thought of that was kind of funny is like when you are creating your YouTube content, your social media content, like what persona are you putting out there? Because there's people like Gary V, right? Gary V is like a digital marketing expert, guy, hustle, hustle, hustle guy. Like that's part of his kind of mantra. And like what I mean by be careful of what kind of persona you're putting out there is like whatever persona you put out there, you're gonna have to uphold, right?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna be like a hustle, 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 then you should be that in real life. Like you shouldn't just fake it on social media and stuff because that's not authentic, and authenticity wins on social media. But I think of a guy like David Goggins. Have you ever heard of David Goggins?
I sure have, yeah.
Okay, so David Goggins, and I saw this on a recent podcast. He is like an ex-military guy, like just a super hardcore guy that could, run 20 miles with broken legs, and he's tough. He's done it before, and that's his persona online as well. When you see content with him, he's going to be preaching about hard work and all this stuff. And he could easily just be faking that, right? Like he could easily just be like kind of having that persona online, but in real life not being like that. But in this specific podcast that I was watching, the guy personally knew David Goggins and was like, no, that's just how he is. Like he literally, even to this day, is a millionaire, but is still jumping out of helicopters to rescue people, putting out fires, doing all these extreme things. Like anything that is a challenge to him, like he's going to do it. Like anything that makes him uncomfortable, that's the direction he's headed. And I respect that. I think it's incredible. Like I do like hustle porn myself. Like I love that stuff. I just do. Like that's my personality. Like I look up to people like that. Although I don't think I could ever truly be like that. But I would say like in my past life, I was like that as a basketball player. Like I was the kid that was shooting 1,000 shots a day, first to show up, last to leave, setting my alarm for 6 a.m. on a Saturday to go lift weights and doing all those things. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that I do like that kind of stuff. But I guess I've gotten soft, and I've gotten smart, and maybe I've realized like, hey, there's more to life, and I think that's basically in the position I'm in now is like, now I'm trying to focus on, the three or four main things for me: health, wealth, love, and happiness. So I think since I found that, my mental health is better because as a child and in sports world stuff, I was a very jealous person. I used that to, drive me a lot. I was very unhappy with any poor performances I had or not getting the results I wanted because I was working so hard. And that did take a strain on my mental health, I would say. So I'm in a better place now, but I do like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think David Goggins is an especially interesting example because his full-time job is essentially working out and as he puts it, being a savage. He's a full-time savage,
Yeah.
literally, like 40 plus hours a week. However, he's also stressed a lot. He gets 8 hours of sleep every night, and he spends 2 hours a night stretching. So in that sense, stretching is what's the word? It's a conscious way of recovering. He's not relaxing by being on TikTok or whatever. He's stretching and he's doing the recovery his body needs. And if anybody has lifted weights and ran consistently, you tend to kind of build up stiffness and muscle tightness and stretching and sleep. like he couldn't do all of the things he's doing if he wasn't doing these kind of conscious ways of recovering, or sleeping is quite literally unconscious, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's getting the recovery he needs. So yes, he is kind of the I would almost argue like he is kind of hustle porn. I love David Goggins, but he's also not at the same time. He's like a perfect example of yes, he is a full-time savage, but he also act properly recovers, and he's not he doesn't have an amphetamine addiction or anything. I feel like some of these guys are just like on Adderall all the time, and like I bet you do work 12-hour days.
Yeah.
You know, and he seems to have a girlfriend or wife that he has a really good relationship with, who understands him and kind of supports him in his ultra marathons. And there's a even with David Goggins, he has this sense of recovery, and a pride in being a savage, but being realistic about it.
Yeah, and I think it's all about how you design your life. I think that's kind of like the answer to all these questions and things we're talking about is like, if you were to take out a piece of paper and write down your dream life, and like it looked like this, and this is how much time you're doing this and this and this, taking all things into consideration, such as you need to make this much money, like, because some people would say like, I got to make $120,000 a year to live the life I want, because I want to own a 4-bedroom home. I want to, have 4 kids. And other people would be like, dude, I need 30 grand on the beach in Thailand per year, and that is my dream life. No kids. I don't want kids. So design your life, write it out, and then take the steps that you need to live that life and to get there. And that's the part that you have to grind, right? Getting there is the hard part. And then once you kind of like, okay, now I do have this life. I am my own boss. I am making this much money. I am able to exercise this much. I am able to do this. That now you can kind of really start focusing on mental health and kind of taking your foot off the pedal a little bit. And so, yeah, how design your life, and then that will bring you great mental health.
Absolutely. And again, coming back to the key here, enjoy your life ultimately. Like, if you hate your schedule, like, it's not going to last. If you are burning yourself out, if you're exhausted, it's not going to last. Like, there's maybe glory in it for now if you're seeing results, but eventually you're not going to see the right decisions. And who knows, like, Augie, you've talked about in the past, like when you were a basketball player, you were really disciplined. When you were working a normal job, you were waking up early every day. Maybe this is just kind of a phase where your kids are young and you are enjoying coaching and you have your own business, and this might just be a necessary phase for, I don't know, like a few years from now. Maybe when your kids are a little older, they're teenagers, they're like, Dad, I don't want to hang out with you. Then you're like, well, okay, well, now I have more free time. And then you hit it hard, and you hit it big. And maybe this is just the flow of things, the way of things. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree. And there are things still that I need to improve in my life. If I was to write out on a piece of paper my dream life, it would definitely include playing more basketball. Like, I would like to go play basketball a couple days a week. I would like to go network with other entrepreneurs, in my area more, and learn from them, and those kind of things too. So there is always, I think, room for improvement. And I think it's easy just to, incrementally try to make improvements to what you're doing to create more happiness. And the app Ulti Self is the one that I'm using to kind of track all this stuff. And I can see that I need to improve in X, Y, and Z, and because I'm not doing those things every day. And it's just like a good way to build habits. And I think humans are creatures of habits, and we need routines. So figure out, what is your morning routine? It doesn't need to be to wake up at 5 a.m. and drink a bulletproof coffee and do all these kind of things that, stretch and yoga and meditate. But just come up with your own routine. Like, is it getting up and brushing your teeth and taking a shower and putting on clothes that are presentable, and then, answering your email first, or doing X first, or whatever? Figure out that morning routine, because I think that can help a lot. And then throughout your day, have other routines, like time block out, 2 hours. I'm going to put my phone in the other room for 2 hours. I'm going to work on this, and this is my main thing of the day. So let's get it done.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like with you talked about meditation and yoga and kind of all these things that we feel like we should do to optimize ourselves. Last night, after my sort of hell week of working, I felt really like tense and stiff and weird. Like I just so anyway, I was like, oh man, I should really put on a yoga video and do like an hour of yoga. That's how I'm gonna recover, you know. And then I was just like, you know what? I've been pushing myself so hard. I'm just gonna stretch. Like I'm going to stretch mindfully. I'm gonna put on some jazz music and I'm just gonna stretch for as long as I feel like stretching. And I think that lasted for like 20 minutes and I felt so much better after. And I didn't like put myself to this sort of arbitrary um measure of an hour of yoga. That's what
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take to feel better. I felt so much better after stretching for 20 minutes and just having jazz on. So much better. And I think that's one way we end up shooting ourselves in the foot is like the recovery time ends up being almost a still you're hustling, like I think if I had done an hour of yoga, I'm sure it would have been better than not doing any, but I'm not convinced it would have been uh better or even as good as just the 20 minutes of stretching I did because I just still would have been pushing myself.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And be flexible with what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, exercise is a great way to kind of just lift your spirits and feel productive in a way and just get a sense of pride.
Especially if you're going outside, leaving your house, you work from home. Yeah, like all of this, I really love everything we've talked about. The only thing we haven't talked about is kind of keeping your space clean, which is kind of obvious. It takes extra time, but I do find if I'm not, I don't know, if I'm having trouble focusing, then I just clean my space, and that's something productive. And then after I'm done cleaning, I'm more clear-headed. And but yeah, I'm we talked about some good stuff today, Augie. I'm proud of us.
Yeah, and
Giving us pats on the back.
yeah, I'm feeling good too. My mental health is now better. But the whole thing about tidying up too, like with this app, right? You can set a reminder every day at 4:45 p.m. just to send you a quick text and a quick notification. Hey, you should tidy up. You tidy up real quick. You check that off your to-do list for the day, and you feel a sense of pride. You get that dopamine hit, and now your space is tidy.
Totally.
There you go.
And yeah, we're doing it. We're living the dream, Augie. It's all coming together. Big things. So anyway, like I don't know. Was there anything else you kind of wanted to mention? We could like multiple revenue streams. If you're going to be a YouTuber, like don't just rely on ad revenue. You're going to stress yourself out. I'm not getting enough views. Help. Well, maybe if you'd negotiated sponsorships better, or had another stream of revenue, a part-time job perhaps, you actually would be less stressed. I don't know. These are kind of things we've talked about a lot. I like the wholesomeness of how we've approached things today.
Yeah, it felt good, and hopefully the listeners got a little bit of value.
Totally. Yep. Always try to give you guys that value. So with that, I think that's a wrap. Enjoy your life, people. When you are recovering, recover. Do it mindfully. Don't just do nothing, or do nothing. But like, it's got to be like you got a good reason to do nothing. It's a true nothing. Stare at the wall. Okay. So yeah. With that, I just enjoy your life, people. It's important.